Hi, it's Eric with Island Expats. You know, I left America at 61 years old to see what it would be like to live in the Philippines. I sold my house, I put my personal belongings in storage, and I'm prepared to leave for a very long time, maybe even permanently. Oh, I've visited here before, and I have for 8 to 10 years, but those trips were either scouting for the best place to live or a place to visit in the Philippines, like the best waterfalls or the best beaches and surfing, etc. And those trips usually lasted up to about maybe 3 weeks long or so. So this time, it's going to be very different. This time I was planning on seeing what it would be like in order to live here for a longer period of time, possibly even permanently. That was my mentality going into this. And things have been what I expected in some respects, and very different in some other respects. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. It's really been a learning experience these first 90 days of living here full time. And honestly, there's been some transition, so it's not always easy. But that said, I wouldn't have changed anything. And here's why. Today, I'm going to tell you the good, the bad, and the totally unexpected of moving to and living in the Philippines. So stay tuned, as I want to share with you some important insights of things that I learned that really will help with your transition if you decide to do this in the future and make it easier for you. And I promise to give you a summary of those insights at the end of the video, so you'll have all the information in one place. I'll also include a list of everyday items that you cannot find over here. And you may be surprised by some of that. These are mostly grocery store type items, food items you can't find to buy, but it'll help you to be more prepared. This way, at the end of the video, you'll have all of the information in one place. Just in case you consider this move yourself, and this way you're more prepared, you're in the know, and you have an idea of what to expect. All right, so here it goes. Let me start with some of the good things. First off, the people here are amazing. Both the locals and the foreigners that I've met have been really interesting. The locals, and I mean local Filipinos, are just normal folks and pretty much what I expected. You know, if you're friendly to the Filipinos, they will respond with kindness and they will be a help to you. Foreigners are universally accepted here and they're treated with respect. Some of that has to do with tourism as a major industry for the Philippines, so the foreigners are what drives that. Well, let's talk about respect for a moment, as I think respect is really different here in the culture than what we're used to in the West. And since respect is part of the culture here, you're going to hear things like, well, yes, sir, and thank you, sir, even from teenagers. Now, in the West, they've got lots of bad attitudes. You go to a restaurant, McDonald's, whatever, a store, and they feel like you're bothering them when you ask to order your item or food or whatever it is. It's not like that here. It's a respectful culture that's completely missing that irritation. So here's kind of the first insight we're going to keep track of. And that is to respect the local Filipinos and don't raise your voice to them. Respectfulness is part of their culture, and they do that in order to seek harmony as they really want to avoid conflict. So you want to respect the Filipinos, and you don't want to raise your voice at them. And that may seem very simple, but I'm talking about even like if you're at a restaurant, often things are not what you expect them to be, and you can be disappointed. You just kind of have to roll with it. So here's the thing. If you're respectful, they will absolutely respond in kind, as this is a very friendly and helpful culture. And Filipinos are very heartfelt people, very compassionate people. It's something it's important to understand about the society because they talk about the heart of the Filipino. It's really compassionate. Now, I know all this seems simple, but you'd be surprised what I've seen so far over here. Certain foreigners don't treat the locals with respect or with kindness, and just kind of have an attitude, and that's the wrong way to play it. Now, let's talk about the foreigners. The foreigners here are a completely separate group altogether. And there's some real characters here. For example, in my friends group so far, and it's still building out, I've only been here 90 days. But outside of a few of the locals that I've met, it really includes so far, with those I've engaged with, right? Canadians, Americans, Australians, and Frenchmen. It's been interesting. That's how it's just kind of unrolled for me so far. Now, there are other nationalities here, and I just haven't engaged with them yet. And that would include the Italians, the Germans, the Koreans, some British, and the Chinese. It's a really diversified group of people. And these foreigners are anywhere from like church members that go to church on Sunday to poker players that are fully into the gambling scene, which you can find on Luna Beach if you want to play poker. Some of these people were civilians, some of them were military. I've met several crypto traders and all the way to just average folks that were truck drivers. And most everyone has some interesting tale as to why they came here in the first place. And it's so interesting to me to find that out. And I hope over time to bring some of those people on camera. I often ask, and they're often shy, but some will do it. And so over time, we'll get that in there. Now, I have to admit that I really enjoy meeting the new people here, from the locals who are very kind people to the foreigners, because it's just so diversified. It's like a slice of heaven. There's a little bit of everybody here. And the life experience is just so different from one guy to the next. And it's almost all guys that I meet as far as foreigners go. There are some that come as tourists. There's a few that stay a little longer, but it's mostly all guys. And here's the thing. Guys open up pretty quickly if you're approachable to them and you show that you can be trusted. So you engage with them, get to know them a little bit, and then they'll open up. And because of this, it's really easy to make friends here. So that's one of the things I want to talk about. If you're in a position in life, and this sometimes happens to guys in their 50s and 60s as they head towards retirement, when they're out of the office environment, it's a different group of people now, and they're a little bit more isolated. And so if you're feeling like that, like maybe your kids have grown up and they've moved away and your friends used to be at work and they're not available now to you, that is another reason to come here. Because in 90 days, I've made more friends here than an entire year when I moved to a new location within California the year before I came out here. So in 90 days, I have made more friends. And they're really diversified. It's interesting. So here's the next kind of key insight, key takeaway. Be approachable to foreigners and locals by being the first one to say hello, and you'll quickly make friends here, right? Now, there's an interesting dynamic here that I also want to point out. Most of the foreigners who live here are men in their 50s and 60s. There's a few in their 70s also. But most of these foreign men, they arrive here single. Many are divorced. And they're here now because, well, they've met a Filipino online. And they want to see what she's like. And they want to spend time with her. So they've lined it all up. And so they're here. In my complex alone, it's all guys. And one by one, there's a Filipino showing up at these different units. So let's be real for a minute. The foreign men are here because they're looking for girlfriends and wives. And that is what they do the vast majority of the time. There's a few that may be here for other reasons, but 90% are here because of a relationship, or they're hoping for a relationship. And that's why they're here. And Filipinas make an outstanding life partner. They have traditional values. They have a strong desire to be a wife and a mother, with a type of feminism that is not just appealing, it's alluring. It's like you're stepping back into the 1950s in the US or something. And feminism, as a political term, doesn't exist here. You don't see feminists protesting in the streets. It's part of their culture to be naturally feminine. And age gap relationships are the norm. Sometimes you'll see 20, 30, and even occasionally a 40-plus year difference between the guy and the Filipina. Honestly, I'm a bit shocked by the amount of men that are looking for women around 20 years old. I know that physically they probably look their best, but I personally don't think that's a good idea, as it's really going to make understanding each other's life experience a lot more difficult, as you're just going to have less in common if there's a 30, 40-year age gap. I was in Cebu. I was going to the immigration office over there, and I was staying at one of the hotels near the Island Mall, and I couldn't believe how many men in their 50s, 60s, and 70s had like 18 to 20-year-old girlfriends. I was astounded. Now, in some cases, the Filipina, when she's that young, she's going to grow up on your watch. I mean, honestly, she's making TikTok videos of herself while you're checking the stock prices. You're in two different worlds. It's just going to make it harder to do. So yes, they may be interested in you, but I just don't think that's the best idea. I'm of the opinion, based upon my experience of traveling here 8 to 10 years, to keep the age gap closer, somewhere to 20 years is ideal. 20 to 25 is fine. And you'll just have a lot more in common. The women will have life experience and they will know what they want from life. They've lived it a bit, right? And there are plenty of Filipinas here in their 30s and 40s that are attractive, they're available, and they're serious wife material. So do yourself a favor and start there first. Look up 30s and 40s, all right? Now, let me ask another question some of you are going to have. I want to just answer it right up front. And that question is, do Filipinas really have what it takes to make a foreigner happy in a relationship or in a marriage? I mean, it is a completely different culture than the West. And the answer to that is an incredible yes. They are, for the most part, kind, loving, and caring, more so than anything I've ever experienced in the West. Most Filipinas are loyal, they're devoted, and they make you and your new little family their priority. They are focused on their husbands. If you decide to have children, that becomes also their focus. And then their family is going to be part of kind of what they care most about in life. So you absolutely are a priority. So here's a key insight. Filipinos can make excellent partners. And those partners develop into marriage relationships. And again, they make you the priority. It's amazing how good that relationship can be if you take your time, find the right Filipina, not just an attractive Filipina, easy to do. You've got to find the right Filipina that's compatible with you. I could go in great detail about this. Lynn and I are so compatible. We both, each morning, we swim in the morning here in the complex between 6 and 7 in the morning. And she's a little athlete. That was always my focus as, growing up as an athlete. And we swim together that hour every single morning. And she's competitive in the pool to stay up with me, but she's not competitive against me. It's just a different thing. We laugh about so much. We have so much in common. We share the same faith. We share the same value system. It's just really important to find the right Filipino. And you may not the first or second time when you find a new girlfriend or go out on dates and things, but hang in there. Keep trying. Don't settle. It's the interesting thing to me about this situation, beyond once you find the right Filipina, is the Filipino men. I mean, in any other culture, it probably would be a huge problem that we're coming in there and we're pretty much, as a foreigner, right? We're taking away their younger and their most attractive women in their culture. I mean, I'm sure occasionally something is said in private among the locals, but I've never heard it. I've never seen it. They're all so gracious. Maybe some of it is that some of the foreigners provide jobs here. And like I said before, tourism is a big part of industry. Whatever it is, the men don't really complain about it. And you would think this would be like a major irritant that foreigners, they come in here and it's kind of an interesting dynamic. Once you're here for several months, you begin to see things, right? It's a little bit different than just visiting for a few weeks. So when they look at the foreigners, when you're a Filipino and you're looking at the foreigners, you appear to come in with money, right? You're able to give them a better life financially to a lot of the local girls that they could possibly have had without you, right? And yet the men are still gracious about it. It's really interesting. Now you can imagine there's probably some locals that think this or that of some of the foreigners, because some of the foreigners are quite rude. And yeah, that's just a whole other thing. If you're coming over here, be gracious, right? But look at it from their perspective. Look at it from the Filipinos' perspective. These foreigners show up in their country. Most of them here have some kind of money, at least Social Security, a pension, something. Some are still working remotely, right? But they have a lot more money than what they have locally because of the exchange and the way the economies work. A lot of these foreigners aren't always respectful. And a lot of them come over here, and I think they're just bored, right? There's even some type of transition. They're running from something. They went through retirement, and they're going through kind of a life crisis, and so they drink too much. They like to buy things. They like to buy motorcycles and cars and whatever else, and they want to come over and play. The Filipinos aren't seeing all the work that went into the years of making that money, right? Of slaving 40 to 60 hours per week. All they see is how it's spent over here. And let's just be clear, the minimum wage in Bohol here for 1 day of work is 543 pesos. Using a 56 peso exchange rate, that's about $10 a day. The exchange rate right now is actually higher. It's up to 58 as I was checking this morning. But we generally use 55, 56 for the exchange overall because it fluctuates. But you can see what I mean. If you're working all day for $10 and a foreigner shows up and drops $50 on drinks and dinner, you just have this perception it's a very different thing. Now, the other thing I want to clear up front is that there are some Filipinas that do not want you as a foreign boyfriend. They don't want to have a foreign husband. They would prefer to stay with a traditional local Filipino. However, most of the younger ones have been educated through the internet, whether it's dating sites and YouTube and TikTok and Facebook. And so they know that their life could be dramatically improved, at least if they're average everyday folks here, by attaching to a foreigner. So of course, it's something that's in order for them. And because you are older and considered more stable and more reliable, they're very attracted to you, even if you are 20, 30, or 40 years older than them. Now, let's talk about the upper class of Filipinos, because that is different. The upper class Filipinos pretty much stay together. And foreigners are usually not part of their inner circle as far as dating and marrying, right? They don't need to be. They don't have the same economic incentive. There's not that reason to do that. And the families here that have the money, it's more about the reputation of the family name, and they want to marry within these known successful Filipino families because most of these elite high-end families own the very large businesses here. And of course, they want to keep it for the Philippines and prefer it to be that way. So though there may be an exception here or there, for the most part, the wealthy Filipinos marry wealthy Filipino families. They stay within the same culture. Okay, that's it. Let's go on to the next thing, which I find really interesting here, and is that people don't really talk about politics. Most locals and foreigners don't want those kind of biases brought into the country. In fact, I would say there's an unwritten rule here to say, leave that stuff at home, right? The foreigners will sometimes talk among themselves a bit just to make a little conversation. I mean, Trump, obviously, one way or the other. People are very opinionated, and so that'll come up. That is typically the newer arrivals, or the newer arrivals engaging with some of the other foreigners asking questions, and then it comes up. But as far as like day-to-day basis, politics is not part of the focus here. It's not part of the conversation. And yet it seems like because of the media in the West, you just can't get away from it. So that's another key insight here, that if you want to make and keep friends, tell your story why you're here, the reason you came, and then leave the politics out of it, and everyone will be happy with you. Okay? The next thing that I notice, and it's just getting more exposure to the Philippines, is that it takes you time to kind of slow down. When you first arrive here, you're used to a faster pace of life, and it's slower here. It's like going to Hawaii. The first part of the week, you're racing around a rental car. By the end of the week, you've slowed down 10 miles per hour. It's just how it kind of works here. It's a slower pace of life here. And so maintaining a busy schedule, like you would do in the West, is not the norm here. Now, there are a few people that are entrepreneurs and developers and things like that push it a little bit. But for the most part, it's a very slower pace of life. So things like social events, social activities are certainly very important here, but they're more driven with family, which is just a key part of the Philippines, and friends, because relationships is a priority to Filipinos. So if you come over here and you find a Filipina, expect to spend time with her family. And it's going to be both quantity time and quality time. And most likely, if you found a Filipina, she's got all kinds of brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents. They all come from very large families, lots of relatives. And especially if you actually are with her near her hometown, which is a whole other conversation we could talk about at some other time, whether to do that or not. So this is something that the Filipinos have figured out, and I think they really have got it right. And that is that life is really about family and relationships. And so that is their key priority here. So our next key insight is family and friends are important. They're part of society here, so expect to spend time with them. That's how it works. And I'll tell you, you'll make better friends here than you probably have at home. Now, this next topic may seem obvious to you, but I want to reiterate that it is very hot and humid here. I mean, every day, all year long, and most of the Philippines, it's going to be between 85 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit and about 70-75% humidity, unless you've chosen one of those few places like Baguio or Tagaytay that's up in the mountains. So the heat is something that you just have to deal with here, and there may be some adjustment to it, but it still bothers me at times. And the reason for that is that we're just closer to the equator here in the Philippines. The sun is so very strong, and it's very consistent, right? Most days are sunny. There's a lot of clouds that come and go, especially this time of year in the rainy season. But the sun is so much stronger than what I've experienced in the West that it's really something that has to be respected. I would say the closest thing might be for some U.S. people. If you've been to southern Florida, say Miami, in the peak of summer when it's really hot and really humid, now you're starting to get close to what the Philippines is like. So the positive to that is if you love to live in your bathing suit, right? T-shirt and bathing suit and flip-flops, you want to do water activities like the pool, the beach, go snorkeling, go swimming. Great place for all of those things. You need to do the sun protection. I would definitely bring a sun hat. You get protected from the sun. But working in the direct sun is just something you've got to understand and respect because it will really take it out of you. So you pretty much try to stay out of the direct sun from about 9 in the morning till 4 p.m. Now, because we're closer to the equator, the day starts early. First light is around 5:15 to 5:30 in the morning, and then it's dark by 6 p.m. And it's pretty much stays within a few minutes of that most of the year. So if you're going to go out and do anything, you either go early if you want to go for a walk or go for a swim or whatever. You either go first thing in the morning or the last thing of the day before it gets dark, around 5 o'clock or so. Any type of outside activities. You wouldn't want to go for a run in the middle of the day here. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so here's kind of the key insight from this weather discussion. And that's going to lead to another topic that I want to mention here because it's important. And that is that scooters may be fun when you first get here. And I'm a scooter guy. In the past trips, I'm only here 2 or 3 weeks. I'm always renting a scooter and I'm racing here, racing there, and that's half the fun for me. But I gotta tell you, after doing that for 3 weeks, I'm always directly exposed to the sun. And so it really gets you cooked. And so if you want a more tolerable Philippine experience, then just simply rent a car. And if you're going to stay here longer term, buy one. Make sure it's got strong aircon. That's one thing over here. And I'll talk about this in a minute, but like the Ford products that are over here have great aircon. Toyota is a very popular brand because of the proximity to Japan and getting cheaper parts and all that, but the aircon's not that great. So that is something that you need. You need strong aircon, all right? Seems simple, but it's a game changer from an experience standpoint to switch from a scooter to a car. I have to say, we learned this the hard way. We were coming back from Anda, which is on the far side of Bohol. It's supposed to be like a little Boracay. There's some gorgeous beaches and without the crowds, very few people there. And it took us 2.5 hours to drive back. And because of the timing and checkout of the hotel, we were in the afternoon sun for those 2.5 hours from about 2 to 4:30 p.m. And it was fun to have the scooter go explore everywhere up in the mountains on the other side of Bohol, but we were absolutely cooked by the time that we got back here to Panguil. And after that, I told Lynn, we're changing to a car. And we have no longer rented the scooter and have moved back, to a car and have never looked back. So that's what we do. In fact, we don't even have a scooter or access to one and don't need it. So let's talk about cars a little bit. If you come over here and you want to stay longer, it might be interesting to know what brands are here because it's different than the West. First of all, if you want to buy a car here in Bohol, the major brands are Ford, Toyota, MG, which is interesting, Kia, Mitsubishi, Isuzu, and Nissan. Those are the dealerships that you're going to see. You're going to see Honda motorcycle and scooter dealerships all over the place, but I have yet to find a Honda car dealer. And they don't seem to double up, which is a weird kind of thing from a distribution standpoint. So tons of Honda scooters, Yamaha scooters, and Suzuki scooters. But you're not going to find these other car brands here. They're just not from a dealership standpoint. There are no General Motors. There's no Jeep type brands. There's no Lexus, Infiniti, Acura. None of that exists here on Bohol. You will find some of that in Cebu City and in Manila. And then, of course, Japanese brands are really prevalent here because, you're just a 4 or 5 hour flight to Japan versus a 12 to 15 hour flight to the States. So that proximity creates parts availability and affordability. So Japanese brands are quite prevalent. So that's kind of an interesting thing about it. Now, let's talk about some practical day-to-day things here. And that's what are the things that I have not been able to find in Bohol? I'm talking about the grocery store. That would be everyday items that you would just take for granted that you can find in the West. I think you'll find this list interesting. So let me just run through it. There's no Laurie's seasoning salt here for meat. Doesn't exist. There's no tortillas. Now, again, I'm talking specifically on Bohol, right? You may find this or that in Manila. There's going to be greater distribution, or in Cebu City, the second biggest city, and maybe a little bit in Dapat. But in Bohol, no Laurie's. There's no flour tortillas, no corn tortillas. You're not going to find that. If you're looking for pizza crust, like for me, I like to make my own pizza. The only thing I can find here are frozen pizzas, already made. Can't find pizza crust, so can't make your own pizza. Very hard to do that. There are very limited options on beans. Refried beans don't exist whatsoever. I did finally find a place that is called BQ. It's a supermarket underneath the BQ Mall in downtown Tagbilaran in the main city here. And there you can find some kidney beans and pinto beans. But outside of that, most grocery stores, you're just not going to find any of those beans. Kidney, pinto, black beans, whatever you're looking for. You will find lots of baked beans. As far as salad dressings go, pretty much blue cheese and ranch are going to be missing altogether. And most of the time you can't find Caesar. Every once in a while it pops up, but you just aren't going to find those dressings here. You have to make them if you want them. Or you go to the resorts and it seems like some of the distribution is different, or they make it. You're not going to find taco shells. You're not going to find sour cream. There's no provolone cheese. And when it comes to seasoning, you're not going to find burritos. You're not going to find fajitas. You're not going to find sloppy joes. You're not going to find stew. So all of those seasoning mixes are missing. So if you're going to come over here, bring them with you, what your favorite seasoning packets are, so you can make those things, right? It's a little easier for the transition. Next, English muffins. Can't find them in Bohol. Sourdough bread. Can't find them in Bohol. Squad bread, rye bread. So they have bread, but it's just not what we're used to. It's mostly white bread here. Occasionally, you'll find wheat bread too. There's no turkey here, except for my neighbor next door that has his own turkeys. And he's from Italy, and I don't know why he does that, but he's got 3 turkeys. But in the grocery store, no turkey. So no sliced turkey, no ground turkey, no whole turkey bird. Doesn't exist. Bacon is really, really hard to find here. You're not really going to find it in the grocery store. There are a few specialty places that maybe make it out of the pig, because pig is very common here, out of the pork. But you're not going to find it in the grocery store for the most part. As far as potato salad, pasta salad, nope, not here. Now, something that's like a mainstay in the U.S., we all use paper towels in the kitchen. They don't do that. They use napkins. They use wipes. They don't have paper towels. It's an odd one to me. They have crackers, but they're not the saltine crackers. They're different. They're not like salted like you do with the premium saltine crackers. Don't have those. Most cookie brands are missing, like Fig Newtons or Mother's and all of those different brands of cookies. Not going to find it. The only exception would be Oreos. And when you find the Oreos, like what you would open up and expect there to be like immediately, and you open up the package, there would be cookies. You're going to find 4 or 5 inner packs. Everything is packaged here. There's way too much packaged food with preservatives and things like that, which isn't healthy. I try to stay away from that. You're not going to find mashed potato mix, so that instant mashed potato mix, or other food mixes, Hamburger Helper, or whatever you would use like that, stuffing mix or whatever. You're not going to find that here. There's no beef jerky. There's no sliced ham. They have lots of pork, but they don't do sliced ham. Cheese spreads are missing altogether. You can't find ricotta cheese, cottage cheese, and cream cheese is hard to find too. As far as like fruit goes, they do have oranges and apples, but you're not going to find cherries. You're not going to find blueberries, boysenberries, or raspberries. And even though you can buy oranges, and actually the oranges are quite good wherever they're getting them from. I'm really surprised how good the oranges are, but they don't sell orange juice. You'd have to make your own. Most of the U.S. brands, as far as ice cream go, are not here, right? They're going to have their own brand. It's called Selecta. And they don't really have popsicles. They have these frozen icy-like things instead that you chew on. It's kind of interesting. If you like summer sausage, like with, sometimes you do that with provolone or mozzarella and crackers, don't have that. There's no granola bars, and I had a heck of a time trying to find dental floss when I ran out. I finally found one store that had 1 box of dental floss. They have those plastic sticks with the little half circle with the dental floss on it. That they do have. But as far as the normal floss, nope, not going to find that. And then most barbecue sauces are going to be missing. You can find A1 over here, which is kind of interesting, but you're going to miss out on most of the steak seasonings. Okay, so as promised, here's a summary of the key insights from this video so you have all the information in one place. So you can kind of maybe take a picture with your phone, right? So that you have this information and if you want to refer back to it. Okay? Well, that's going to do it for this video. I hope this brings a better understanding of what it's really like to be in the Philippines after being here consecutively 90 days and kind of going through the transitions and looking for things to eat and places to stay and restaurants and getting used to the food and all of that kind of stuff. So I would say that now that I come to the end of the 90-day period, I've adjusted quite well here, and I do really enjoy it. I think longer term, I probably, for sure, would have more friendships here than I would have back in the States. And I'm one that likes to kind of hear the story of why you're here. And so if you happen to be in the Bohol area and you're coming over here, contact me. Let me know in the comments section, I mean. And you can also email me at the number 4, islandexpats@gmail.com. And I'd love to hear your story as to why you come over here. All right, that's going to do it. If you've got questions or comments from this video, please let me know in the comment section, as I do my very best to respond to every single comment. I want to make sure that you are heard and acknowledged. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.